I have no idea why the religious like C.S. Lewis. I never much cared, even back when I was a Christian. It's kind of like low effort apologetics, but that's true for most of them, isn't it? I want the high effort ones, but those apparently don't exist, so I guess we'll just have to make do. Did C.S. Lewis do anything remotely of substance? Let's find out coming up next. This video comes from a channel called Bruh Video Productions, and that's a really stupid name, but I suppose that's neither here nor there. It's called How C.S. Lewis Proved Christ Without the Bible. And I'm sorry, but that never happened. Lewis just made a lot of empty claims and ran around with the goalposts, but he never actually proved anything. He asserted things. He just wanted things to be true. But that doesn't mean he actually proved anything, but that he was a con man and a moron. And I think we're going to see some more of that today. But what do I know? Let's see. Stick around.
You deny one less God than I do. You don't believe in 2,999 gods, and I don't believe in just one more.
This is one that I really wish atheists would just stop using, honestly. It makes it sound like the religious have rationally evaluated 2,999 gods, at least in his example, and have come to the intellectual conclusion that they aren't real based on evidence, which is pretty much what atheists are doing, but the religious don't do that at all. The reasons that they reject 2,999 gods is because they believe on faith in one God that they think says, well, all the other gods aren't real. There is no rational evaluation of the evidence whatsoever going on. It's all fifis and faith doesn't mean anything. So anyone using this, just stop. It doesn't get you anywhere. You don't understand the religious mindset. It's not going to impress anyone. It's just a waste of time.
Right?
One of my favorite things in debates is when someone makes an argument that's not an argument. A better question is, of all the world's religions, how do you know you've got the right one?
Great question. And you know the answer that any theist is going to give? Faith. But faith doesn't mean anything. Yes, they might try to dress it up under platitudes and lies, but it all comes down to blind faith. It's what they want to be true. It sounds good to them. So what? What sounds good to you isn't true unless you can demonstrate that it is using evidence, and your feelings and desires don't mean a damn thing. That's where you need evidence, and that's what no theist actually has. That needs to be the basic expectation that we come to them with. Don't let them wiggle out of it, because they almost all will try to, because they've got nothing of any substance. Just keep those goalposts where they are. Don't make a fool of yourself.
Or even better, what would happen if Christianity disappeared, everyone forgot about it, and all the Bibles were burned? Well, you little honey pumpkin, in C.S. Lewis's Mere Christianity, Lewis makes an airtight philosophical case for Christianity.
A what?
Philosophical case. Philosophical case. Philosophical case.
Okay, he doesn't, and we'll get to that in a second. I guess this is another theist who doesn't know what a second take is, but I guess we'll just let that one go. It's not like we really have a choice. What if Christianity just disappeared? What if there was an alien mind control ray that could just make the planet forget that Christianity ever existed? All the books just disappear. Everything ever related to Christianity just went away. It's all gone. So what would happen? We'd be a whole lot better off, at least in my opinion. Even better if it got rid of all religions, at least in my opinion. Now, I don't know if he's going to address that or if it was just thrown out there to shock the rubes, But I guess we should just back up a little and see where this goes, just in case it goes anywhere worthwhile.
Lewis makes an airtight philosophical case for Christianity without citing a word from the Bible. He explains what makes Christianity different and why it must be the only true religion.
Because he likes it. That's the only argument that most theists can manage. What you like doesn't make it true, though, and they just can't handle that, can they? This is why philosophical arguments mean absolutely nothing, because they demonstrate no actual reality behind the faith. It just comforts the believer, and they really like it and put their butts in the pews where the clergy class can make a living without doing a lick of honest work, so that's what they're really after. Now, as most people know, I have zero respect for Lewis at all. In fact, I don't think I've got any respect for any apologist, but Lewis is one that just pandered to the feelings of the believers and didn't give a damn about the facts, so fuck Lewis. But let's see where all of this is headed, because I'm hoping it means something intelligent.
This is how he did it. Lewis begins with basic questions right out of Aquinas' book.
But Aquinas was an asshole too. We've debunked all of Aquinas' 5 ways multiple times. It's all what they want to be true, not what is demonstrably true. It's more preaching to the choir, and that's simply not impressive, at least to me. It is what I've started to call, it seems to me, theology. Pure confirmation bias, backed up by nothing but, this is what I really want to be true. But that doesn't make it true. If you are not after actual, demonstrable, verifiable truth, backed up by evidence in the real world, you are doing intelligence wrong. So this is not starting off well, not like we really expected to. I mean, I'm willing to give him a chance, but I don't think he's going to be able to show that Lewis did anything verifiably of substance. But let's see, though.
How did I get here?
Your parents fucked. That's the answer. Your parents had 6, you popped out 9 months later, and there you are. It was a perfectly normal, natural, biological event. Welcome to reality. Of course, the religious don't like that. They tend to be terrified of normal reality. They just want to feel special, but they're not. They're just a basic biological life form with an overactive ego and a desire to be exceptional even though they're not. This is the problem. They have absurdly unrealistic expectations of life, and they think that reality should revolve around them. Boy, are they wrong.
Everything that exists has been caused by something else. Whether you think the universe began 6,000 years ago or 15.8 billion trillion years ago.
Tell me you're an idiot without, telling me you're an idiot. I mean, seriously, these morons aren't even trying. But that's really the problem, because these people are painfully ignorant of everything. Let's be honest. They have no grasp on the real world, and they don't want one. They are only after emotional comfort, and that is positively childish. Not that they care or anything. So now that we've established this idiot has some pretty severe mental problems, I mean, who else would actually name their channel Bruh Video Productions? But seriously, you don't have to put it on display in front of the world for everybody to see. I mean, at least try. It can't be that hard.
It literally doesn't matter. Which is more logical? That the universe was caused by something, or that it was caused by nothing?
I have honestly thought about just not doing videos where the maker plays the whole something from nothing nonsense, because that's the dumbest thing that a theist could conceivably say. But then I realized that I'd never do another video again, because that's what they all do. They all do it, and it's the lowest of the low-hanging fruit imaginable. It's pandering to the morons in the pews who have a hard time sitting still and not, drooling. Nobody says this except for the religious, and it proves conclusively just how stupid they are. Not that they care or anything, but come on, these people have some serious mental problems. So we're already off into La La Land. I don't think there's any real recovery here, but hey, we've come this far. Let's see where it goes.
Right off the bat, we can rule out atheism. Thus, Lewis affirmed that logically there must be a first cause, and that cause must have been the most powerful being in existence, or God.
Oh look, a gish gallop. None of that is defensible. None of it is demonstrably true. It's just an end run with the goalpost strapped to your back toward what they really wish was true, but can't actually back it up with anything, rational. This is one of the reasons that I dislike Lewis so much, because this is pretty much all he did. He just said stuff that he knew sounded good to current believers, and because they don't ask any of the difficult questions, he just got to push his beliefs on people who weren't bright enough to know any better. This is how the vast majority of apologists today operate. They say stuff that their paying audience already accepts on faith, as if those things are true. Then they provide an emotionally comforting conclusion and pretend that they've done anything worthwhile. This is why they don't want to talk to us, because atheists would be like,
Excuse me.
It will carry my power to every corner of creation.
Excuse me, I'd just like to ask a question. What does God need with a starship?
they don't want to hear that. That's why religion is such an echo chamber. If they had evidence, I wouldn't say. But they have nothing but empty claims and wishful thinking. They just spout whatever emotionally comforting nonsense they can come up with, and then they go into hiding the second anyone with a brain comes to call. That's kind of pathetic, right?
Grab your coconuts and hold them tight.
Because we're not yet within 1,000 miles of the God of Christianity. Next, we as humans have this tricky thing known as a mind.
Some of us do. But see, he's still hoofing it around with the goalposts and not doing anything but making a fool of himself. Because they start off with a laughably absurd false dichotomy. Either everything came from nothing, or God done it. Mostly they'll just assume they're God, although in this case he's not, but it's not going to help his case because he hadn't shown that there are any gods to begin with. Just asserting it doesn't make it true. This is just, it seems to me, theology. And what seems to these people is absurdly stupid. There are lots of other options beyond something from nothing and God done it. They just don't want to talk about those because they can't just sweep them under the rug with no effort.
Our mind has a sassy opinion as to things we ought and ought not to do. We can deduce that our sense of right and wrong was created by God.
No, you can't. Not even close. You don't just get to say, God done it, without being able to show that your God is real first. Of course, the people they're saying this to, they're not going to ask any of those difficult questions that should be asked because they're already emotionally primed to believe in this unproven God thing. They just really want it to be true. So when someone comes along and says it's real, well, they'll just buy into it without any questions. That's the problem, because there's a lot of questions that need to go in here. What God? Why a God in the first place? They're too busy hauling the goalpost to Buffalo to even bother with any of that though, right? They don't care. It's all about confirmation bias and emotional comfort. These are people who just want to believe. These are people who are really, really dumb.
God, for whatever reason, has an interest in us knowing that some things are good to do and others are not. We call this morality.
I call it wishful thinking because in the real world, that's just an assertion, not a demonstrated fact. And that's all the religious are really good at though, right? Just making assertions and hoping that nobody holds up their hand and goes,
Excuse me.
This is why when we see theists going, well, that sounds a lot like God, I just laugh. You don't have the slightest clue what your God, any God actually, is like. These are just stories that you're telling each other because they make you happy. But that doesn't make them true, does it? That's all religion is. Made up bullshit that you embrace because it makes you happy. Morality is something that humans came up with. It's not special, and it's certainly not objective. The second that you laugh at their absurd claims, they get upset and run away because they really want it to be true. A rational person would just trot out their evidence. These idiots have absolutely none. What the hell else is new?
Now we could rule out deism, the belief that God exists but doesn't give a crap.
Nope, because you haven't shown that any God claim of any kind is realistic or rational yet, and certainly not that is supported by any kind of demonstrable evidence. We can throw all of them out until you have evidence that one is true. This is the desperation that they go through, and they get away with it because they're only pandering to the rest of the religiously deluded. Well, doesn't that sound like what you've been told from the pulpit? Well, how the hell do the idiots in the pulpit know anything? They have no more demonstrable clue than you do, than anyone does. So this is just bum rushing the stage, hoping to get attention. And it's not going to work.
Huh? Oh, yeah, fine.
Throughout history, people like Sam Harris offer that perhaps we humans get our sense of morality from science. Lewis considered that idea many years ago, but he thought, if a city is burned down, and like 10,000 years later, archaeologists dig up the remains of the city, science will tell them exactly what is. It will give them an idea as to what was, but science will never be able to tell them what should or should not have been.
Screw Sam Harris. We don't get morality from science, except insofar as science describes reality to the best of our ability to do so. And I guess morality comes from reality, at least as much as we are part of reality and we just make it all up. This is the stuff that they don't like, and I can't tell you how many theists I've talked to that just get mad at the idea that morality isn't objectively magical. They can't get that through their heads because they don't want to, because they're intellectually lazy. They are looking for something that is true today, tomorrow, and forever, and they never have to think about it again because, thinking is hard. In fact, if you really look at their theology, that's very much what their theology is. They just want to know stuff forever. But that's not how reality works. We know what we know when we know it, and that's it. And the knowledge has to be open to later revision as we learn more, because that's how reality works. Welcome to the real world. They really hate that though, but so what? That's how it all actually is.
But if God wants us to do something, why doesn't he just force us to do it?
You'll do what I want!
That assumes that God is real, which I know the religious really want to be true, but that doesn't actually mean anything, does it? That's why all of these stupid religious videos are only made for religious people, because they can just say, well, of course it's true, without providing any supporting evidence, and the money all just goes rolling in because the religious are emotionally invested in believing that it's true, and they just want to be happy. They're also delusional, which is part of the problem. Nobody cares about that part, the part where these people are out of their ever-loving minds. So long as they get to tell their silly stories and make their empty claims and the money comes rolling into their pockets, nothing else matters. Except it does.
God has given us an amount of free agency. Now we can rule out those religions and even like these sketchy subgenres of Christianity like Quakers, who are essentially theistic nihilists.
Oh right, the no true Christian nonsense. Well, we're the only real Christians. Yeah, fuck you. I don't think there are any real Christians. I mean, yes, there are Christians, but the reality part is kind of non-existent. They're like furries. Sorry, furry is a delusion, at least for the people who think they really are anthropomorphic animals living in human bodies. You are out of your ever-loving mind. Christians and other religions, most of them anyway, they think that they're living in a magical happy land that isn't actually real. It's just a fantasy that makes them happy. You people have severe mental and emotional problems. You really need to knock that off.
Finally, we have to take a look at God's creation, which is everything. You are a tiny little speck on a rock in the middle of nowhere. If God spilled his coffee on the earth and budged it a little to the left, we'd all burn up under the sun.
And it amazes me just how stupid these people are. I saw someone recently saying that if the Earth moved a couple of centimeters out of its current orbit, we'd all die. Are you fucking stupid? And the answer to that, of course, is yes. These people aren't aware that the Earth's orbit is elliptical. The difference between our closest and furthest points from the sun annually is about 3.2 million miles. A couple of centimeters, my ass. And of course, this changes over time. Every 100,000 years or so, our orbit changes, getting closer to being circular and then back to being elliptical. Earth's eccentricity, caused by the gravitational tug of the other planets, causes some really significant swings every 400,000 years or so. Every 41,000 years, due to precession, our planet wobbles on its axis. It's why we tend to have cyclical ice ages, when the poles receive less solar radiation because the Earth's angle changes. In about 9,800 years, we're going to be back to planetary maximum. Yet most people, especially the religious, they don't know any of this. They don't care about any of this. They're just making up bullshit in their heads. These people are complete morons. Big surprise there.
We are not as powerful as God. The remaining religions of the world that are popular, such as Judaism and Islam, they're all about the things you can do to go to heaven.
There's no reason whatsoever to think that there is a heaven. It's just, but I really want it to be real. I had this discussion with a theist a couple weeks ago where all he could say is, but don't you want to go to heaven? Not really. I mean, sorry, there's no reason to think there even is a heaven. And this shocked him. You don't believe in heaven? No, I'm an atheist. But you still have to believe in heaven. No, I don't. That's not how this works. Sorry. It's like these idiots just can't get out of their own heads. I can't tell you how many times I've had the religious demand that I actually believe in their gods because they can't imagine that everybody in the world doesn't. Sorry, I'm an atheist. Well, I don't care. You still have to believe. You don't know what words mean, do you?
Muslims have to pray 4 times a day for 45 minutes or something like that. Jews have to follow the Levitical law and the 10 Commandments to a T. Spiritual leaders teach that you need to reach such inner peace that you reach nirvana. But think about it. Does God actually need you to pray 4 times a day for 45 minutes? No!
Does God actually need me to bow down and kiss his ass? Because that's stupid. But that's what Christians believe. All of these religions are just dumb. They have all these rules that you're supposed to follow just to keep you under their control. That's what it's all about, after all. Control. They want you to do what they tell you to do because that makes you easier to subjugate. Why would an actual God, something all-powerful, because that's how they define it, give a damn about your worship? Why would it care if you loved it? Shouldn't an actual God be beyond that? I mean, scientists in a lab don't give a shit if the lab mice love them, because that's just stupid. But since these gods are just human inventions, they have all the standard human foibles, and the religious, they just can't figure that out, because they don't want to.
Can any amount of your actions do anything to sway God? No. We could rule out any religion that tells you that any amount of your actions will get you anywhere with God.
So there goes faith in ass-kissing, right? Because they are always blinded to their own stupid beliefs. All the dumb crap you're doing is wrong, but we're okay. It's why you have to watch not only what they say, but what they do. Because most of the time, they're just being massive hypocrites. And this goes for a lot of people, of course. I point out that one side of the political aisle whines about something the other side does, while they're doing the exact same thing themselves, over and over and over and over. But this kind of hypocrisy is absurdly common. Don't let them get away with it. Point out just how dumb it all is. Not that it's really going to do any good, because, say it with me, they just don't care.
We're left with one religion that is different from the others.
Except it's not. Now, I can guess what he might say next. I don't know. Let's see. Let me short circuit it all right here. You can say, well, God saves you from your sins. But if you don't believe in God, if you don't accept Jesus as your Lord and Savior, then is God going to save you? Well, most Christians would say no. If you have to believe, then it's your actions that matter. The only real way to get around this is hardcore Calvinism, where you're saved or damned from the beginning of time and there's nothing at all that you can do to earn it or lose it, at which point you don't even have to be a Christian. You don't have to believe there's a God. You sure the hell don't have to accept Jesus. You can do whatever the hell you want because it doesn't really matter. And I don't think that's what he's getting at, but I guess we'll have to see.
I don't know what it is, but you have got it.
One that teaches you that you suck, that you broke morality and can't fix it.
No, you didn't. You have an inherently sinful nature that you did absolutely nothing at all to earn for yourself. Romans 3:10-12. There are none righteous, no, not one. There is none who understands. There is none who seeks after God. They have all turned aside. They have together become unprofitable. There is none who does good. No, not one. You did nothing. You can't help but be the way that God made you. God fucked everything up, not you. If you can't choose not to sin, then it's not your fault. Geez, Christians are just stupid, aren't they?
You want to know what the problem with the world is? It's you.
No, it's God. God set the entire system in motion, knowing full well how it would all turn out, and yet did it anyhow. God is an asshole. If it wasn't for God, none of this would ever happen. Of course, you'll never get them to admit that, will you? Because they're all blinded to all of their own problems. If God didn't care about worship and obedience, then we'd all be fine, right? It was only Adam and Eve's disobedience of a rule that they couldn't have possibly known was wrong in the first place that got us all into this mess. And it isn't like God couldn't have just, blanket forgave everybody or anything. He chooses to be a prick. So fuck you and fuck your stupid God. You're just making a fool of yourself.
Oh.
But what am I to do if I can't save myself? Literally, your only hope is that God would, by grace, save us from ourselves.
Except we didn't do anything demonstrably wrong. God set the plan in motion, knowing what would happen for everything. God is the one who created hell and purposely sends humans there. This whole, God doesn't send you to hell, you send yourself, is just bullshit. God made the place. God condemned humanity. God designed the rules in a way that were impossible for humans to follow, and then forced them through the door into damnation. It's like if I created an automated torture chamber and then I told you that if you breathed, you'd go in there and be tortured for all eternity. And then when you breathe, since you don't have a choice, I put you in the car and drove you there, opened the door and kicked your butt inside and then said, well, it's your fault. Yeah, not hardly. This whole thing is just dumb. But then again, consider the source.
That one way or another he would wipe away our stains. No man could do this, only God can do this.
And in his infinite love, the very substance that binds us all, that beats time and space itself, the thing that God is himself, in love, he has done exactly that.
Why does this sound an awful lot like Stockholm Syndrome? God is a complete prick who set up the whole scenario and could easily, not do it, but somehow we deserve it and he loves you. Yeah, sure. Just like Jeffrey Dahmer loved his victims. I mean, that's effectively what we're talking about here. This is the kind of shit that we see from abusive husbands that try to defend wife beating. But they deserve it, so I'm going to beat them black and blue out of love. Yeah, fuck you and anybody that follows you. You are a complete prick.
Boom! And without reciting a word from the Bible, Lewis explains how any rational being can come to know the God of Christianity.
Which he did absolutely nothing of the sort. Lewis was a delusional asshole, just like a lot of apologists out there. You can't get to the God of Christianity without the Bible, because there's absolutely nothing that describes the God of Christianity outside of the Bible. Even if you pulled a look at the trees, that's not the specific God of Christianity. That's just a generic deity that has no demonstrable characteristics or desires. I mean, it's not even a deity, it's just something that these idiots make up in their heads. So no, Lewis didn't do anything but appeal to the beliefs of an existing religious audience who already got their ideas about gods from the Bible. It doesn't matter if you mention the Bible or not, it's still what your audience is going to think of, and you know that going in. So, fuck you very much. Both of you.
If the world forgot about Christ and burned all the Bibles, that would not stop people from being able to search for the author of the Book of Morality written on their hearts.
Which doesn't exist, because the very idea of writing morality on human hearts comes from the Bible. Romans 2:15. You honestly can't be this dumb. If there had never been a Bible, if there had never been a Christianity, then the concept of the Christian God wouldn't exist either. This is what happens when you've spent so much time in the religious echo chamber that you aren't even aware that an outside exists anymore. It's why all of their videos are aimed straight at the echo chamber, because they know that everyone stuck inside is too stupid to know any better. Often, the people making the videos, they're just that stupid too. And this is why all of these videos go entirely sideways, because they are only made for the fanatics who don't know anything else. It's also why channels like mine, atheist channels all over YouTube, just rip these things apart, because they are painfully simple to laugh at. If you don't accept their base preconceptions, it all comes tumbling down, and they can't defend any of it at all. They certainly have no evidence. They only have faith, and faith is really, really dumb. So anyway, what do you think? This guy almost comes off like a bad Poe, but he seems to be serious. And that just makes him even dumber than I thought in the beginning. Would you be convinced by any of this? And would you ever want to see more videos by this guy? Because he's got a ton of them to go after. If you're interested, go ahead and go through his playlist and see what you like. Post direct links down in the comments. I don't personally think there's anything intelligent there, but we could say the same thing for any apologist, and in fact, we do. Because they're all idiots. But anyway, if you want to see more, just let me know.